Lunchbox, real quick here. I'm going to say, can we do this in 30 seconds, which I know we can't. But Lunchbox. Neil, any rebuttal on what Sam had to say about you today? Chase, you were on the part of the morning extravaganza, right?
Yes.
What did Sam have to say about me today?
It was towards the end of the show. It was in reference to Darko Milicic. You credit him for being a part of the Pistons championship or something with that.
Yeah, he was
and
there.
He was saying
Benny was there too, right?
Yeah, that you said it's not the worst pick of all time because he played a career and he won a championship.
Yeah.
It's not the worst pick of all time. Got a second contract and everything.
Yeah, I just think of with the players drafted after him, I think the context makes it the worst, if not one of.
Well, if you're comparing them to LeBron and stuff like that, no, obviously he wasn't as good as LeBron.
I'll say Anthony Bennett is a worse pick.
Michael Olowokandi, the streets are littered with them, man.
Yeah.
Well, that Anthony Bennett draft was awful.
That was a very bad draft class for sure.
You know, here's the thing, and I can't believe it, because Neil will tell. I was as hard on Darko as anybody back in the day. I was. Here's the thing that people forget. You guys weren't living through it. Everybody loved him. Everybody, scouts, every
Denver would have slit someone's throat to draft him.
Everybody loved him. Legitimately, everybody loved him. Right, wrong, or indifferent is inconsequential. Joe Dumars has to wear that till the day he dies.
Right. Both things can be true here, but to say he's the worst draft pick ever is
you can't
it's not even fathomable. You can't even make a case for that. Nothing. He got a $20 million second contract, played in Minnesota, averaged double figures for a year in the league. That's not the worst player of all time. That's not even close. But we do this a lot, right? You talk about it. Great has replaced good, and bust has replaced average.
100%.
I mean, he was a bust. He wasn't average. He was a bust.
He had an 8-year career, man.
Yeah, but
9-year career.
When you're drafted number 2 overall, you're expected to have more than an 8-year career. You're supposed to be a star. And the context of the players that drafted after him does not help his case at all. When 3 Hall of Famers go directly after him, that definitely hurts.
But those three teams would have killed their grandmother to get Darko.
But do you agree? I think what people are doing is they're letting their emotions get involved in this. Bad pick. Nobody's arguing otherwise. To call it the worst pick of all time is emotional.
Yeah.
That's just emotional.
Yeah, it's false, dude. And what do you think the narrative is on Sean Bradley?
It was a bust.
Dude played 14 years in the league.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said.
He did.
Anthony Bennett, definitely
That's a bust.
That's a bust.
Michael Olowokandi.
Yeah, that's a bust.
That's an all-time bust.
But also, Anthony Bennett draft class, like Chase said, it was the best players out of it are Rudy Gobert and Giannis. And I remember
Oladipo had a run.
Dave Griffin. We at MSU, during my sports journalism class, we got to interview him. And I asked him, we all got to ask 2 questions. I went up there, I was like, what happened with Anthony Bennett? What was that pick all about? And he was like, we thought he was the best ready NBA player, and obviously nobody expected Giannis to be what he is now, or he would have been the number 1 pick, no doubt. But it was just a bad class.
Part of the Darko thing, Neil, you know this. He was one of those guys. He was too young. He wasn't ready for it. Some guys just aren't ready for it emotionally, mentally, maturity-wise. He wasn't ready for it. I can't tell you how many guys on that team, they knew. They talked about it back then. He was just, he came from someplace else. All of a sudden he was, how many times do you hear the story? 18, 19-year-old, all of a sudden he's got a bunch of money in his pocket and he's hanging out at clubs that he dreamed about, right? He got caught up in it. And he wasn't good. And he wasn't playing.
So, on that Thursday night when you're inside club and there's a game on Friday, you don't care.
He got mopey.
Yeah.
He got very mopey.
You don't care and you get at to say he's an all-time draft bust is.
He is.
No way.
Darko? Yeah,
no way. To say he's an Olowokandi, Anthony Bennett, and I could go through the list.
Not Anthony Bennett, but he's definitely a draft bust.
No, the guys around him don't have an impact on that. See, that goes back to what you're talking about with the emotion. The guys that went around him do not play into that.
Because, I think he does.
No, because we're talking about Darko and his career. That has nothing to do with it. You could say that about anybody. You could go back and look who was taken right after that guy.
I don't know. I think
that's where it hurts.
I think Darko's a bust. For sure.
The value of what that pick might have been is where it hurts. how much longer could the Pistons remain?
And not even,
that's what hurts.
Not even that. When you draft somebody at number 2 overall, they need to be better than what Darko was. Not even what the guys you have after. You have to be better than that at number 2 overall, or you're a bust. He was not nearly a lottery pick, let alone the number 2 overall pick.
People forget, though, how often does an NBA champion have the number 2 pick in the draft?
That's true. And yeah, maybe he could have averaged double digits on a bad team, but still, you're the number 2 pick. You're supposed to be better than double digits.
Who was he
going to
play in front of?
Nobody, but you have to earn that spot. You're number 2 overall pick.
Do you know what? Do you know what a bust is to me? Like, and you can define it any way you want. I hope you know I'm not being a dick and saying you're wrong, Spenny. Do you know who a bust is to me? Josh Rosen. Josh Rosen is a bust.
That's an insane bust.
That is like what was he taking overall?
Second, I think.
10th, right? So like that's a bust. Like that kid, I'm sorry.
And what he was talking about,
Neil
10th overall, yeah.
It was 10th, right?
Yep.
Okay, Neil, this is where, shout out to our Vandy friends, guys like you and I stay up and watch the Pac games, right? Or the Hawaii games. I watch that guy so many times, and I swear to God, I used to ask Scott Bischoff, I was like, am I missing something?
Yep.
Am I, like when I watched him, like I felt like I was dumb. Now, in fairness, there have been some other quarterbacks that I said that turned out to be really good quarterbacks. The Josh Rosen thing was weird. There was nothing there.
No.
Do you know what there was? There was a swagger.
Sam Darnold.
There was aura.
I said the S word, so I have to give a shout out to my buddies at Vanderbilt. But no, really, there was a swagger. There was an aura, but there. So to me, Spenny, that's a bust. A guy that he didn't belong in the National Football League.
No,
you know what I mean? Darko was a bust based on where he was picked, but he was an NBA player.
Yeah, if he was a second-round pick, it wouldn't have been a bust. But he was number 2 overall.
Big Joe says Darko's arguably a top 5 draft bust. Go look up Michael Olakandi and those guys, bro. Just because he was projected highly makes him more of a bust. And yes, the guys after him made 100 times worse of a pick. If they took Dwayne Wade, would he have played here?
He would have played more than Darko, and he would have eventually been a starter. Yes.
When they tear it down and it was over.
No, probably year 2 in the league, he would have taken a starting position.
From Chauncey or Rip?
Yes.
No chance.
What do you mean? He's the second best, arguably the third best shooting guard of all time.
Right.
He would have found a way, just like Carmelo Anthony, if you would have drafted Carmelo Anthony or Chris Bosh in a year,
they would not
have
played that first year.
No, they wouldn't.
They would not have played that first year.
They absolutely would have played and been rotational pieces.
They would not have played.
Yes, they would have, Neil. They would have been rotational pieces. What do you mean? It's a basketball game. You need more than 5 guys to play. Those guys would have gotten spots in the rotation and eventually gotten starting spots. Probably the year after.
Stretch out that team's bench.
Yeah, and Dwayne Wade or Carmelo Anthony would have been better than Mike Jones or the other guys coming off of that bench. They are all-time Hall of Fame level talents.
But I know that team worked and won a championship the way it was set up.
Yeah,
I know they did.
For sure.
You can't argue it.
Yeah, but you can't argue that the team would have been worse by taking out Darko and adding a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, those guys were drafted in 03. They won the championship in 04.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm saying, though, that team won a championship. All these guys, that's why I can't get with the guys taken after him. It would have negatively impacted their career at the beginning as well. Am I crazy here?
No, I don't think so. It would have been interesting. That's why conversations like this are difficult, because there's what we know and what we think we know. I think that's really what's in play here. Spenny, I agree with you. I have a feeling those guys find a way in the rotation, and heavily.
Dwayne Wade is a top 3. It goes Michael, Kobe, D. Wade.
And I think you had a coach in the time in Larry Brown that would have said, I've got to find a way to get this guy minutes. Whereas with Darko, let's be honest, he didn't have to find a way to get Darko minutes. He didn't. I think he would have found a way.
Exactly.
How many? I don't know. That's why it's a weird conversation.
They wouldn't have been starting year 1, no, but they would have earned a starting spot eventually, because that's the level of player and talent that they are. They're Hall of Famers. They wouldn't have been stunted their growth if they go to a championship level team. I disagree. I think it would have benefited their careers.
Who's to say, though, that what impact that would have had? It had a negative impact on Darko. We said as much.
It would have had more of an impact on. There would have been a positive impact on the team. They would have had more of an impact.
No,
than
how
Darko.
would they have handled being in that where you are not playing? You're not playing.
They would have been fine. They would have played. It's not they're not playing. They would have played. They would have gotten minutes. And they would have been impactful minutes because they are significantly more talented players.
You know the crazy
Darko
thing
Milicic.
is that dude just turned 40. Like, it seems like I've talked about Darko my entire... Look it up. I'm serious. He just turned 40 just a few days ago. I've been talking about Darko my entire lifetime. And he's only 40 years old. And he probably hasn't played in the league in, 13 years?
Yeah.
12, 13 years? I think... Can I be the arbiter between both of you?
Yes.
I think you're both right. He was a bust if you're talking about the second overall pick. He was not a bust if you're talking about an NBA player. I think
And that's it. We're having two different definitions.
I think they're splitting hairs.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I can get off the highway on that exit.